Gentlemen, we are talking about your film Found Footage. I love the fact that we go back to the Patterson documentary about Bigfoot in making your mockumentary about the film itself. Um, you got to bring Rockula himself, Dean, into the film, which is even more incredible.
Heck yeah, that's one of my best friends in this world. I'm glad Rockula's getting some love.
Listen, everyone keeps mentioning summer school. No one mentions Rockula. So I got to throw it out there for Dean. He's always been nice to me. We've talked a couple of times over the years. So, of course, we got to mention one of the classics.
Of course, yeah. Dean was my first friend. My name is Max, by the way, and Dean was my first friend when I moved to Los Angeles. He's a great actor, and he was in some absolutely kick-ass movies throughout the 80s and 90s.
Well, let's make sure we introduce everybody properly. Jacob Souza. All right. Max,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have no
Hello.
idea how to pronounce your last name.
Tzannes is my last name.
Max Tzannes. Forgive me for
And
that. And David San Miguel.
yep, that's me.
All right, so we're making sure we got everybody out here. Cinematographer, writer, director. This is a fun film. Um, I have this weird fascination with Bigfoot, not in the sense that like I'm going to go Bigfoot hunting and all this stuff, but like I want to go to the museum in Georgia. I want to go to the museum in Seattle, see what that's like. You know, what was the catalyst to want to make a mockumentary about a found footage film regarding a mythical creature?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think part of it was Jacob's obsessed with Bigfoot.
That is not true. It's a little bit. I'd say I like it just as much as you like it. I think it's interesting, right? It's a fun mythical creature to follow in a film, and it's a natural extension to Blair Witch. We were like, what could be their next Blair Witch?
In fairness to Jake too, I think there's because it's a mockumentary. I think there's something inherently a little funny about Bigfoot. So if you're gonna make a movie about someone making a found footage movie, having the scariest monster ever within that movie might not be as fun as having a Bigfoot, and maybe he walks a little funny in the Bigfoot costume and it doesn't quite look right. So there was a lot of, from the comedic point of view, I think there was a lot of potential. Also, there's a lot of like meta layers to the movie. So at its core, having something that everybody knows, like felt like the right, foundation to build it on.
Okay. So a personal anecdote, when Kevin Burns was still alive, who part of Prometheus and the Ancient Alien shows, weeks prior, I had joked with a friend of mine, the reason why we can't find Bigfoot is that they use wormholes. And about 3 weeks later, that ended up as a theory on Ancient Aliens. So I was like, Kevin, are you following us? So, just joking around with that sort of stuff. What weird, notion of Bigfoot and maybe actually try accidentally finding him were you guys playing with in making the film?
What would you say, Jake?
No, no, you talk. That's you.
Uh, I think that for this movie, the main utilization of Bigfoot was through the eyes of our main character, who's a director, who's kind of using Bigfoot so a lot of people will see his movie. So his actual aim for the thing was probably less investigative and more that he was trying to use it as a good sales pitch for his movie. Now he doesn't know later in the film that that same like kind of creature, Bigfoot creature, will be used against him in like the end of the movie, which probably shouldn't give away spoilers. But I really think in the movie, when the movie, it's like a good sales tool. Is there anything else that?
Yeah, well, so one of the scenes in the movie, as they're trying to make the movie, is this scene where they're pitching the idea to an investor.
Yeah.
And it's an easy pitch to say it's this movie about Bigfoot, but it's fresh and a new perspective on it, right? Like how do you make Bigfoot new and fresh? Um,
Which is,
and
by the way, like the hardest, like because we make indie films. So how do you sell someone on a movie? We got one of the biggest stars of all time,
yeah,
Bigfoot.
it's familiar, but we're doing something new to it. So it's like it's kind of
Making fun of us,
yeah,
obviously,
we're
'cause
kind of
that's
making
what
fun
we
of
do.
ourselves.
That's what we do.
Well, there's a
When we try
lot
to
of,
sell a movie.
but there's also a lot of insider lingo and insider trading, shall we say, and that like you guys are pulling back the curtain and revealing the absurdity that it takes to make a film and getting funding for it. There's one particular actor, we won't mention his name, but he's no longer with us, and that was a request to be put in the film. not realizing that there's a bit of amount of time since his repose.
So I think when anyone who's made an independent film or maybe gone off in an independent venture in general, when you're trying to raise money for these sorts of, dreams, often you'll go to people, especially for movies, who don't have a huge history in movies, right? So they are investing in movies because maybe they used to do something else, have some extra money, and they want to do something fun now, right? And those people they might not know exactly, what's going on in the industry, who's alive, who's dead. All I know is I like this actor a lot. And all of a sudden you find yourself, trying to cast somebody that is no longer around because your main investor it's their main requirement for giving you money.
Yeah, so I'm also a huge professional wrestling fan. Like I like the cryptozoology stuff because it's fun, and I love professional wrestling because it's an allegory for world politics and the joke that is. Only that plays with real people's lives, so it's not as funny as we try to make it out to be. But when WWE first cut their deal with Saudi Arabia, one of the princes had requested Yokozuna to be on the card, and he had passed away maybe 25 years ago. So it's interesting to see that connection of real life in art that was completely unintentional.
Yeah, this really happens.
You would be amazed. I mean, the cool thing is that as we talk to people who are not even in the independent world, it sounds like in wrestling, but also in the studio system, it just happens where the money gets tied to very arbitrary decisions like that are kind of silly and honestly really funny from the outside, but very real when you're inside of it. It's like, oh my gosh, we have to get what was the wrestler's name?
It was Yokozuna. Yeah.
We have to reanimate this guy and get him back,
Right. Even though like 90% of his family is now in the WWE following his legacy, it's just hilarious that the Prince of Saudi Arabia wanted him at one of the events that they were hosting. And we're like, that's going to be a bit difficult. Which you guys face quite a bit in the film.
Totally. Yeah.
So what's exciting about this is that you guys do it earnestly, and it's not necessarily poking fun, but you play it completely straight in ridiculous situations, which makes it even funnier. And I think that part of comedy has been lost over the last decade, where they put everybody in an absurd situation and make the characters even more absurd. And the way your delivery in found footage makes it so much better is because everybody's playing it completely straight in the lunacy of trying to make this independent film.
Yeah, I think a huge debt is owed to the actors there because part of it comes from experience, right? Because I think all of us have been on these movies where it feels like everything's going wrong and like a demon is terrorizing your set. So there was stuff to pull from, but at the same time, there's a lot of improv in this movie, and there's definitely an impulse when you're in a movie that's heavy improv to always try to be the joke in the movie, always be the funny thing. And I think everyone does a really good job of just letting the movie be funny and kind of sitting in the situations. A lot of my favorite parts of the movie are improvs that took place that were dramatic, actually. Like there's one little, you probably won't even, but there's one little time when the investor character, basically they have this kind of like, he has this subtextual blow up with the director, like, it ends with him saying, we're gonna have a talk after this meeting, after this scene. You never see the talk, but they have this like little like 4-line back and forth that I've seen so many times on sets where two people are absolutely butting heads at odds. There's no real joke there, but it comes from I'm sure from a place of that they've experienced as well. And it's cool to see people not always trying to like improv for the joke, but improv to improve the narrative of the story.
Yeah. But it just makes it so much more fun in your delivery, and congratulations on that.
Dude, thank you. Yeah. Well, the casting guy right here. I got the casting director next to me right here.
Right.
What's up?
You guys wore a million hats in this: casting director, cinematographer, writer, director, catering, taking turns as who's the gopher, all this other stuff. But that's the beauty of independent film. And I think we're kind of getting back into that, like it's always this ebb and flow. Like, from the silent films, the talkies were the big thing. So we had musicals for the longest time because it had to be this big production to prove that we could do sound. And then it got dark and gritty, and then it got light again, and then it got darker in the 70s. Then we get Star Wars. Everything blows up bright and colorful in the 80s. 90s goes back to indie films. We had our Marvel and superhero run for quite a bit, and now we're kind of back into that gritty indie film storytelling. Even getting distribution is a little hard for indie films, but you guys get to have a theatrical run at least for this. As filmmakers, how important is it to get that narrative and the story out when you don't have $350 million to give us a botched Snow White?
It's kind of all you have, really. You don't really have anything else other than the story. I mean, at this level, right? So there's a lot of parameters when you have a low budget that you just have to accept, and you can either choose them as, well, I guess I can't make the movie I want to make, or you can actually channel them into the narrative itself. And kudos to David. There are a lot of times, for example, that look, I do love found footage movies, but I'm bad. I always want to like break the rules of the movie and be like, oh, and then we pop out of the found footage movie, and now we're in this other thing. And I think you did a really good job of saying like, no, these are the rules of the movie. And me as a viewer, I would really appreciate if we got to the end of this movie and, our whole like thesis was we want to make a movie that starts as a mockumentary and ends as a found footage horror film. Right. And if we did that without breaking the rules, that's the real feat. And if you break the rules, yeah, it's cool and everything. But really it's not. Not so much. Go for it.
No, I don't doubt that. Like, we're always like, this is a creative think tank all the time. We're like tossing ideas around, and I think we would have made that version work, and it would have been really cool still, But what got me personally really excited about it was, the staying true to like, we are a documentary, and then you start to see like the world inside the frame of that documentary start to like melt away, and then you're suddenly in the found footage movie. That's just like a fun ride to take. So if you ever pop out of that, you lose some of the like tension.
And I think if we had more money, for example, that opens the possibilities like, oh, never mind, you throw away the found footage thing. And maybe we wouldn't have had this movie that, I mean, genuinely, I hope everyone loves it. We do love this movie, which we've made movies before that we don't love. So we've made shorts that we will never see the light of day, So it's nice to have something that I think we all came to the consensus like, wow, we actually made something I want to watch this movie. When we first set out, there were plenty of complications that we weren't thrilled about,
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of filmmakers go through that, especially early when they're trying to make their first, second feature film.
Right. But this also forced you guys to be more creative. And I think that brings it to light, especially with the way the film comes together. Also, this is the first time we've all chatted together, but if I don't like the movie, I'm not going to do the press day. So I'm glad that I like the film.
That's great. Thanks, RC. We're glad you can come over anytime and watch it with us.
I appreciate it. Let me know when I get back from my cousin's wedding next week, and we can make that happen.
Perfect. Great.
As everything progresses, the theatrical run is coming shortly thereafter. It's going to VOD. It's going to be here in the United States, and then it's going to have its debut in the United Kingdom. What is the UK isn't necessarily known for their Bigfoot type stories. Like, how is that relatable over in, a couple of islands in Western Europe, off the coast of Western Europe, versus the United States, where it's so embedded in the mythology of the country that we'll have a different reaction to them?
I feel like the movie is very much an American movie that will probably resonate most with an American audience. I'm hopeful, you never know if there's something that people from other countries can glean. Maybe it's a sort of like laughing at, these like Americans for trying to make this little movie. Maybe there's some Schadenfreude there. I don't know. But as far as I think we do lose a little bit of the Bigfoot sales element with the UK. I don't know. You tell me. You're the one who frequents, the chats online, and you're always.
That's not true at all. He's just lying to you.
Well, you're just sitting there looking pretty with your great hair that you're not talking the whole time. So you're the one that combed your hair for the interview and then just sat there.
Great. I'm a good listener. I like to serve. What can I say?
By the way, he was the editor on the movie too. So there's that element. He's cutting this whole thing together in his head.
Right. He's editing the video for us at this point.
Yeah, I think Jake.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you think it would play in in like the UK, for example? I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. No, we want it to play everywhere. You know,
Yeah,
we'll send it to Nepal, and they'll be like, "That's our Yeti story. Same thing. We're used to it."
yeah.
They get it. Cryptids are all over the world. They'll plug their own the UK version in there, whatever that is.
All right, gentlemen, I'm gonna leave you with this. All right, if you guys actually found Bigfoot,
Hmm.
how would you have documented it in the film and made it part of the narrative? Like you're making this movie, it's a found footage, it's going into the horror as how it turns, but you literally really did find Bigfoot. You know, how would that look for an ending of a film?
That'd be awesome.
We might be dead.
I feel like if we actually found Bigfoot, the way to play it in the movie would be that nobody noticed that they actually caught the real Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And he just walks across and they're like, why is he still, okay, whatever. Hey, we're going for another take. And he just walks off and they never actually realized they just captured Bigfoot.
Gentlemen, where can we find you on social media to keep the conversation going about found footage, the making of the Patterson Project?
We are on Instagram and TikTok, Dirty Shot Clean on both of those. There's a lot of we're doing a lot of marketing right now. It's really fun, exciting stuff. So there's a whole rabbit hole you can go down on the pattersonproject.org. We've created a whole website. Jake, again, tech savvy guy. There's a whole website with a bunch of clickable stuff that'll take you down the rabbit hole and get you all hyped up for the movie.
Then you can also call 1-844-PAT-PROJ if you see anybody who was any missing people from the film. If you know them personally, feel free to call that number.
We got our own hotline. We got our own website. We're making sure everybody checks out found footage, the making of the Patterson Project. In theaters June 20th, later available June 24th in North America, and then on June 30th in the UK. This is a fun movie. Congratulations on it. Maybe there's a sequel in a sense for the Chupacabra, or some other cryptozoology type thing, or throw a bone to the UK and do the Loch Ness Monster.
Love it.
Love that.
Love
Go-
it.
we're going international. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, RC.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So fun.